NCIS's main espionage plot, Tony and Ziva, is back in full force in Episode 8, Fire Sale, which is just what the series needed as it nears its conclusion. Tony and Ziva, Cote de Pablo, are back in the middle of creating complex schemes and donning amusing disguises after learning the true intentions of the antagonists in the previous episode. By showing her the video of Tali being attacked, they had just sowed doubt in Martine's mind against her partner Jonah, something Martine warned him not to do. However, in order to defeat Jonah and clear their names, Tony and Ziva now had to acquire hard evidence. They conclude, with the assistance of Claudette and Boris, that the raining fire drone that the villains dropped upon the prison must have recorded Jonah's execution of Henry at the conclusion of Episode 5. However, they required physical access to Raining Fire's computers because the video would be stored in the drone's core code. They all intend to go to the company's weapons convention in Paris, much to Boris's dismay, because he is supposedly packing for his honeymoon. Let's review the poignant flashbacks that infused this week's show before diving into the current timeline. The conversation about the guest list begins with Tony and Ziva getting ready for their wedding 5 years prior. Ziva, who still feels uneasy in big groups because of her PTSD, wants only them and Tali to go, but Tony wants all of his loved ones to be there. Pablo plays this surprising and ear-ringing memory with lyrical sensitivity. Later, worried that her body is going into fight-or-flight mode over a guest list, she talks about this with her therapist, Dr. Lance. As customary, the show's conversations around mental health are presented with tact and consideration, reminding viewers that Ziva is still in the early phases of her recovery in these flashbacks. In the meantime, Tony and his best friend Henry, who we learn was also scheduled to be his best man, had a few beers together. It would have been good to know how close they were prior to Henry's passing. Henry wonders if Tony is just clinging to the marriage without taking care of himself first when he shares what Ziva wants for the wedding. Because of their individual circumstances, Tony and Ziva begin to wonder at the conclusion of their respective talks whether they are prepared to get married. In the current timeline, Martine is asking Jonah why he chose to attack Tali without telling her. Jonah successfully manipulates his way out of her questioning, but the seeds of mistrust are sown. Concerns are also raised in the current, formal, relationship between Tony and Ziva as they consider how to inform Tali, who had previously expressed her reservations about their connection. This time, however, the pair presents a unified front and allows their relationship to remain intact despite the concerns. In fact, it is a startling but welcome development that people can now compassionately express their anxieties about the future with one another. Tony is the first to show off his abilities when the plan is put into action, as he brushes away any suspicion regarding their disguises and smooth-talks the guards. Inside, Boris and Claudette separate to speak with Frida, Gnome Nakai, her nemesis who worked at the facility, in order to create a copy of an access card. Claudette attempts to approach Frida in order to scan the card while they are exchanging passive-aggressive comments. Boris defends Claudette in his peculiar manner during the next awkward and humorous exchange. The improbable bond between these two diametrically opposed individuals constantly makes people laugh and gives the program a playful emotional undertone. Ziva and Boris get entrance to the server room as Tony and Ziva divert attention by using the hostility between the Raining Fire soldiers and the center's security personnel to carry out their own scheme to overthrow the business. Aaron Graves, Martine and Dayon, the former Raining Fire hacker they released from prison, arrive in the server room first. The crew must therefore alter their strategy, and Claudette discovers that they might compromise the actual drone rather than the servers. By making a fantastic Gibbs reference about how often Gibbs used to slap the back of his head, Tony utilizes the same diversion to divert the security personnel and builds a relationship with them. However, Frida shows up and wants to put things right when Claudette successfully breaks into the drone's programming. Tony is compelled to take over the tablet and sits in a corner, pleading with Claudette to use an earpiece to give him orders. This is when Tony's unease with cutting-edge technology reminds him of Gibbs once more. After a humorous moment in which Claudette tries to conceal instructions from Tony during a light-hearted conversation with Frida, they eventually have the audio and video to prove Jonah's guilt.